All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Very excited to have you all here. We're going to give everyone a minute or two to trickle in. So grab some water, some coffee, whatever you'd like to drink. And while we wait, tell us where you're calling in from in the chat, and you can answer one of our polls we have live. Pedro, why don't you share where you're calling in from?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil. I was born here and based here in São Paulo. It's a little bit cold today, but it's not like normal. Yeah, I'm here. Is
Nice.
anyone else from Latin America in the chat?
Yeah, let's see. We do get a lot of people from all over the world tuning into these, which is awesome to see.
Nice.
We got a lot of California, Madrid. Very nice.
Yeah, so we have another Hispanic, and we have Diego in Madrid. So it counts.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have some fun polls we'll be doing throughout this event on the topic of metrics. So keep an eye on the chat to be answering those. Right now, we're asking people what your biggest challenge is when it comes to research metrics. So we'll be curious to see what people are saying. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get started. As I said, welcome everyone. We're very happy to have you here. I'm Lauren Gibson, content marketing here at Rally, where we are building the modern user research CRM to help you talk to your users more quickly and efficiently. I'm joined here by Pedro Vargas. He's going to give an intro to himself. But before we get started, in case you're new to these AMA series, we like to keep them casual, a nice conversation. We have a lot of questions that we've put together ahead of time based on discussions we've both had and questions you've submitted. That said, we like to be flexible. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat. My colleague Sydney will be helping us out to make sure that we answer as many as possible. So definitely throughout the session, leave comments, leave questions. We'll pull those up onto the screen. But yeah, we're excited to get going. This is a super awesome topic. And Pedro, I think, has a lot of great insights to share. So to get started, Pedro, can you give us an introduction to yourself, share a little about your background?
Sure. Thank you so much, Lauren and Raleigh team. Very happy to be here. I've seen some other AMAs with people I know, I admire a lot. So I'm very honored to be here. So I'm Pedro. As I told you before, I'm from Brazil. My whole experience in research is based here. And I can say in Latin America, I've done research for the Argentinian market and also Colombian and other countries here. But my full experience is based here. I was a leader of UX research, and now I'm a leader in a Research Ops team, which might seem similar, but they're different. In the practice, I can tell you that I started different, the challenge. I'm also a teacher. I teach some classes about UX research, Research Ops in an MBA here in Brazil. I'm a writer. I have some articles. This year, I got the challenge to translate the majority of them to English. They're all of them, almost all of them are in Portuguese. And I'm in this challenge in this task force to translate all of them to English, and then I can spread my view and also to learn with different people and outside the country. That's why I'm here. I really like this type of connections and this thing that might be a hub of UX research professionals. I really like to talk about impact metrics and all those things connected to that. When I joined the first research team as a solo, I can say it like that, as a solo UX researcher, I didn't have a clue about this topic. It was crazy. We didn't know anything about research ops. We didn't know anything about how to scale research to the company so we can gain more influence. I think that's part of my purpose is to help other people like me, back there in 2018 when I joined the first research team. So people like that, and also leaders to share some challenges. And like in the end, we are all in the same boat. Like it's crazy. Like the same problems I have here. I know that people like in Germany, they have the same problems, of course, in different levels, like in different contexts. But yeah, it's crazy. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about metrics.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. I'm happy to have you here too. I think there's a lot from your background and experience that a lot of people can learn from and resonate. And I love your point too. Like we are literally all in the same boat, like the same challenges. They're a little bit different depending on some aspects, but a lot of these are really universal. And I love too, last thing, the UX Research Hub. I think this community is super awesome and just eager to like hear from each other and learn. So I'm excited to dive in. So I know you and I kind of talked before about research impact and then ROI. And I know you had some thoughts on kind of how those are different. Can you share a little more about that?
Yeah, that's important to say. But what's even more important to say, and it's a disclaimer, my 2 cats are crazy. They might pass like in the camera and do a little mess, so please don't mind. They are nice people. Yeah, talking about those topics, ROI and impact, like my view, and of course, during all this AMA, I'm going to share my view, my experience, my knowledge around that. It's good to know other people's views as well, and they have different experiences. They're based on different places, so all those things can change the behavior and the experience around this topic. But with that said, my view is that when we talk about impact, people tend to think about ROI, which means return over investment. And I follow that. Yeah, I know, like business people talk about that very often. We can talk about ROI in research, but it's not quite different. It's very different from speaking about impact and also metrics and also OKRs. They might bring us to the same place, which is to like potentialize the research system, the research discipline in the company, but they are different things. They're in different buckets. They're in different boxes. And people usually like do this misconception around ROI, like research ROI and research impact. In my perspective and in my experience, I have this experience of creating this research impact tracker. I've done this in that previous company I told you, like in the first company I joined the research team. I've applied the same system in other companies, and now I'm applying in the company I am as a ReOps leader. But I never had the chance to talk about ROI, because ROI is like, we need to realize that to do this count, ROI, we need like money involved, we need salaries involved, we need time involved in that count. So maybe the researcher himself, herself, can't have access to this kind of data, like salaries from colleagues, salaries from other UX designers. So to talk about cost savings, which I think is like a very big trend now, mainly after layoffs and all those things, we need to have access to this data. And I think in the majority of the scenarios, the researchers don't have this access. And with that in mind, we might think like, okay, I can't do anything, so I can't track impact, I can't measure impact of what I'm doing. And I disagree a lot about that, because we can track impact. We have different ways of doing it. And that's what I'm going to share with everyone today. And if you have like different views about that or different experiences, please put in the chat, and then we can discuss about that. I think that's it, Lauren.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that disclaimer. And I'm going to echo what Pedro said. Like, if you have thoughts, opinions, please share them. Like, again, we want this discussion to feel very inclusive with everyone. But I think that's a great point, Pedro. Like there's a lot of monetary costs that like researchers just aren't privy to and they don't know. And so that does make it hard to know that ROI. And I think we can sometimes get lost in like that dollar amount and like what are we saving dollar wise and losing the bigger like impact vision. Quick thing I wanted to just touch on, and I know you've talked in other public spaces about your impact tracker, but could you just high level share what that kind of looks like, the kind of framework you used? I feel like a lot of folks would find that really interesting. Oh, Pedro, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry, classic.
All good.
I was speaking on mute. So can I share my screen? Maybe.
Yeah, you should be able to.
That. Let me just do something here. Yeah. Share screen. Okay, cool. Measure.
Yeah, check and see.
Can you see that?
Yeah, let's pull it up. There we go.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit colonial right now because the spreadsheet is in Portuguese, but I promise I'll translate it to English. But the main idea I'm going to be able to explain to you right now. This is what I call the impact tracker or research impact spreadsheet. It was created by me after watching a very good talk of Victoria Solsek in a very early learners conference about UX research. The link is here. You can find it on YouTube. Let me see if I can open that, just for you to see the thumbnail maybe. That's the one. It's called Impact in UX Research. It was great. A very short talk, but the ones that blow our minds. And then I came back to my reality and created this new spreadsheet based on the spreadsheet you shared in this talk. But mainly here, I believe that every research project can have impact in the stakeholders, in the company, in the strategy, or like in the company strategy, or in the product strategy, or in the squad strategy. Like there are a lot of differences and nuances when you talk about strategy. What's key here is that we need to know what type of research we do. Are they exploratory? Are they like evaluative? And the types of impact we believe we need or we want to track. For example, a very useful type of impact we had in that time is that we wanted to know how many initiatives were changed after the research. Or, for example, how many changes a single product or a single screen in an application was changed after a research. Or how many stakeholders got in contact with research interviews for the first time. Or, for example, how much collaboration we ended up doing in that project. So these types of impact, and it's good for us to, and it's a tip here, sit down with your team and with your colleagues, with your leaders, and think about that. Like do a brainstorming. What is a good research project? What is not a good research project? Like these are two main questions that we might think that we have the answer, but when we stop the wheel and we sit down and open a Fig Jam or a Miro board, we will see that we need more alignment. So these are the two main questions I think that can lead you to find the types of impact. And we also have like these types of scale or scale types. These are teams or areas we wanted to impact. For example, we wanted to impact the design team, the product team, the marketing team. And you see that Portuguese in English it's not like that difficult. There are almost the same words here. And also the teams, maybe they have like a dedicated design team to a special part in the product. Or maybe they have product marketing team and I don't know, inbound marketing team. What are the ones we want to impact with our projects? This is another question that I think it's useful and necessary to have before starting to track the impact. So you see some graphs here. The first one is type of impact. It's just for us to have this great view of everything. Like this is type of scale and type of research. And we also have here, this is like the main place that is going to lead us to see the graphs. This is like called projects and impacts. So we have all the projects here. There are all examples. And we have like the dates, the quarters, when the research was delivered, and when the impact happened. And that's different. Like I can present the results of a research today, and the impact is going to happen like, I don't know, a month, like in a month, or in 2 months, in 3 months. It depends. And it gives us a lot of, how can I say that? It gives us a lot of data to know if we are on the right way or if we need some adjustments. For example, if we're doing research, they're not impacting right now, and we expect to impact right now, something's happening. Like we're not planning the way we were supposed to plan. We are not well connected with the company OKRs or the product OKRs, and we're doing a job that is not useful now. And we might also conclude that it's okay because research needs to be a step ahead in the OKRs creation, for example. So that's totally fine. We just need to know if we are in the right track or not. So this is the type of impact, as I'm showing you right now, type of scale. And these are 2 questions, very key questions as well. How everything was before that research, and what has been done after the research. So before we didn't have this, and that. And after that, we, I don't know, uncovered some new insights we didn't have a clue about. I don't know. Like it's good for us to have this because in the end, if we want to look further in every type of impact, for example, we can do a qualitative analysis and know in detail what were the most impactful projects we had in a year or in a quarter. Like it depends. I also have here like this form, and it's a very basic one. It's a template. It's called feedback for the UX research team. And here we have like some questions that I also believe they are part of the research impact. This is qualitative, and this should be answered or responded by the stakeholders, the main stakeholders in that quarter or after a research project. For example, how much the UX research team impacted positively in the deliveries during this quarter. And they would rate from 1 to 5. And it's crazy because it's a simple question. It's like a CSAT or CS question in that model. And you're going to see that stakeholders are going to click on 3 and 2 and 4. And then you're going to cover a lot of things. I don't know, maybe they didn't have time or they didn't realize they needed to share this feedback. So I really believe in questionnaires like that. And maybe you can do that on an interview. But I like questionnaires because it's anonymous and then they can type down everything they want. So another key question here is like, if you had help from the UX research team for a specific project, maybe they didn't have, and it's good for us to know. And also, I don't remember. This is like, it kills me when someone click on this one, but it's part of the game. We need to know, like, and it's even more crucial for us to understand that. If they don't remember, I think it kills me more than if they click on no. Like, to be honest,
Yeah.
we're doing something bad here. And also, like, if they took decisions based on findings or insights made by the UX research team, that's it. And then I have like this. I had a small team at the moment, and we could do things like this. We had all the researchers here, and if they wanted to share some feedbacks for specific researchers, they could do. And me as a leader, I could share with them in a performance review or in another place, like one-on-ones and those things. Like I did this, I usually, I usually did this, used to do this per quarter. Also to fill the spreadsheet, it was per quarter. But every researcher, and that's key here, I can stop sharing because like it's independent from this spreadsheet and from everything I showed you. The responsibility of tracking impact is from every researcher. It's not like the leader is not like the responsibility is not only in the end of the quarter. We need to do that. Like we finished a research project. What am I going to do now? Like I need to schedule something I usually share with people. And I did that before, is like after I deliver a presentation of findings and results, I schedule a brief interview or call with the main stakeholder in a month, for a month, and then I can come back to the same topic and ask him or her like, what happened? So I presented the results a month ago. What have you done? And I know that we are like doing research projects. So we finished one, now we start another one tomorrow, and we are in the cycle. Like it's I'm not going to say it's normal, but it's like happening in the companies. But we could do that. We can be intelligent, we can be smart on creating these lots to track the impact with the main stakeholder. So I've shared a lot of things. I don't know if they all make sense.
No, that was great. Like you said, so many good tidbits in there. We have some questions in the chat. Lais asked, do you collect and maintain all of that manually? Like updating that spreadsheet, is it all manual?
Yeah, yes. It's manual because it's research. Like if you see, we're doing research about our research projects. So it's manual. In my context, at least, it was manual. But if you tell me, okay, we have all these automated processes, when we deliver research, we can send them a bot asking how was the research and blah, blah, blah. Okay, do that. But in my case, we did this manually. And also to understand like this last two questions, the last two columns in the spreadsheet, what they had before the research project, and also what was the impact. We need them to tell us. So
yeah,
we cannot run away from that. Maybe if you are like in a hurry, we can send some Slack messages or team messages to stakeholders and ask them. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Really quick thing too. I loved how you brought up that you do have to follow up, and like it's super important to, like you said, set up that call with a stakeholder to be like, what happened? Are you like still like you do have to kind of chase stakeholders. And Lais had another good question about that. But first, Kyle asked, what's the largest scale you've used this tracker at? He has a team of 30 researchers, and curious about just system compliance and how you've done that.
Yeah. So yeah, we need to be aware of this, like compliance and other security procedures. The largest scale, I think it was with 5 researchers. And if you have 30, maybe you can divide them into smaller groups. You can define like champions or leaders of impact tracking, and then like divide everything to start doing this. Like, you don't need to copy and paste the spreadsheet. You don't need to copy the types of impact, the graphs, and all of things. Like, I wanted to present this to you just to share my mindset. And also, of course, you can adapt, and you should adapt into your reality. And things about compliance, like, it depends, because these spreadsheets gets locked for the research team and also the director of product or design. And I can't see, like, in my reality, any problems that might come with that, because we know the research project, we know the users. Like, we don't have reasons to write down the names of the users here. We don't have reasons to talk about more sensitive content. It's just like an impact tracker. Like, yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. We have lots and lots of great questions in here. So Lace asked, she's also tried to apply a feedback survey and felt some resistance from stakeholders, which I'm sure we have all felt. How do you manage that, or how would you manage that kind of blocker if you haven't experienced that a ton?
Okay, I can answer that, like, in different ways. Let me start by saying that you might face some problems with that. I agree with that. But as everything we do, we need to sell this initiative in a way they see the benefits from this for themselves. If we just ask them, okay, please fill out this form, I need this number, I need to track that because my manager is asking me to do that. Let's not do this. Like, what are they going to gain or get benefits by answering that form? We need to have this answer, and we need to tell them that they are, like, key in this process. And maybe we can, like, I don't know, you can say, I need you to share your feedback with me to fill out this form, because with that, we know if we need more researchers in the future to do more research for your product, for your team, maybe to think about the benefits they gain when they respond this questionnaire. It's a good way to start thinking about that. And yeah, that's it. And you can also, like, in a practical way, you have different ways of doing that. I've seen some companies and colleagues doing that on Slack polls in a closed channel there, and it was quite nice. The response rate was good. And you can also do that, like, in a one-on-one style. Like, if you have a Slack channel with everyone, and it's not generating, like, the impact we wanted in the service, try to reach every single one of them, and it's going to be manual. Try to reach every single one of them and ask them to answer that. And of course, we researchers, we know we can't do a big questionnaire. Like, we can't do some short, brief, and with the main questions we need to ask. I think that's it.
Yeah.
But, like, I can think about different answers for this question. That there are a lot of ways of doing that.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to your point, even about the spreadsheet you shared. It really depends on your organization. And I know that answer is not satisfying to people, because we wish that there was, like, a clear, like, do XYZ thing. But it really is, like, everyone's stakeholder has different preferences of communication style. Like you said, like, Slack may work great versus one-to-one. And I think to your point about explaining why they should care to answer this survey and why it matters, I think that comes back to another metrics thing of knowing what they care about. What are those OKRs? What are the goals of your stakeholder? What keeps them up at night? How can what you're doing impact that? So again, it's always not a satisfying answer, because it requires, work to research and learn about your stakeholders, but it kind of is often the case. Henry, I'll get back to your question. Yeah, please,
Yeah,
Pedro.
like you made me remember one thing. One thing that can
Mhm.
help, but it's not going to be like in the first moment to apply something like this. Um, these results here we have in the graphs, for example, they might turn into OKRs.
Mhm.
And if they end up being OKRs in the future, they already know they need to give the company these numbers and they are part of this process. So it's like this wheel, like it's a, it's a no end wheel.
Absolutely. We have another question here that I think is interesting. Is it always the stakeholders measurement? So going to like that survey, are researchers' perspective integrated into the measurement of research operations? If so, how?
Yeah, that's a different thing. I can share my screen again. And this
Yeah.
is this spreadsheet I shared with you is like when we when we need to track the impact on research projects,
Mhm.
like research projects involving interviews, questionnaires, usability tests, and all those techniques and methods we know. But if we're speaking about the research operations side of this game, there are other metrics. Like this is something I'm diving into right now in my company, in the bank I'm working right now in Brazil. And I've done a recent, okay, it's been 3 months already, but it's recent. Um, I've done a LinkedIn post sharing the, let me share my screen first. Okay. I've done this LinkedIn post sharing the main metrics we look for in the bank right now. They are like research op metrics, and they're going to see they are different, although they are connected. Like everything I'm going to tell you, they're connected, but we need to put in different boxes so our brains can interpret and know they are different things. Um, but these are the research ops metrics we look for and we track in the bank today. And here we have like how many reports were downloaded from the repository, for example, how many, what was the number of accesses in the UX research knowledge base in the last month, what was the perception of research ops team support, because we have a research ops team dedicated to help more than 400 people who do research here in the bank. Yeah, I know it's quite challenging. We know that we want to do a lot of things, but we can't, and that's part of the game as well. And another example can be maybe, okay, that's a good one. We have this metric called statement of application of the GDPR. Here in Brazil, we have another name, but for you, it's GDPR in research projects. Because imagine we have 400 people who do research, 400 people that can do research. We have the guidelines, we have the rules for them to follow when it comes to the GDPR, but they might forget to follow them. And we have this question, are you following the GDPR in all projects? And it's crazy because they're very honest and they're very sincere with us about that. Because this number is not like always 100%. And we can know, okay, we need more trainings, we need more, I don't know, we need to revisit the guidelines, we need to communicate more about that. Or we can find that is a specific team, a very new team that didn't have the specific trainings about that. So we need to retrain people to do these upscaling tasks. Yeah, that's it. And we also have this research effort score, which is a metric, is the last one there. It's a metric. I usually say that it's the sum of the customer effort score, but for researchers. It's the same calculation. I'm launching an article about that in a few days, and I'll be very happy to share with you on my LinkedIn. And I don't know. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best channel to do that. And feel free to type a message to me on LinkedIn as well. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess back to that question, like how involved are your researchers with kind of helping, figure out what metrics to kind of look at and how things are going, like ranking those ReOps efforts?
You'd like to know can you repeat the question?
Yeah, and Fatima, like tell me if I'm explaining this wrong, but like how it like collaborative is this process of identifying and tracking research ops metrics with your researchers themselves? Like, are you kind of like, how aligned is that?
Yeah. So it's a very good question. Every year, we choose some UX researchers in that amount of 400 I told you before, to do what we call a research ops diagnosis. We have all the pillars of research ops in a FigJam. We have some prompts there, some questions, and they help us to answer the questions. It's a workshop, everyone on the same page and doing the same thing at the same moment. And with that, we know, for example, if we have a pillar, a research ops pillar, there is like that we're not doing enough tasks and actions and initiatives on that pillar. So we have this wide view of everything on their minds. We wanted to do this like per semester, but as I told you, like we have different challenges, so trade-offs as every team. And after that, we end up seeing our metrics and we see if we have like, okay, they're pointing out that they need more help with that, and we don't have any metrics around that. So the metrics can also help us to not forget that we need to do some stuff. That's important because in the end of the month, we update all the metrics, collecting data from, I don't know, the repository, from surveys, from interactions on Microsoft Teams. And then we will keep updating that monthly. And if we don't have this like in front of us every month, we forget. It's crazy, but we forget. The metrics can also help us to not forget about what are the main things we need to track. And of course, there are initiatives that are not connected with the metrics, but yeah, that's another topic.
Yeah, awesome. You started hinting at something. So we've talked a lot about like kind of those bigger impact things you're tracking, but what would you say are some core metrics that you think like every research and ReOps team should be tracking, especially more on that quantitative, like the numbers side? Like what should they be kind of looking at?
Yeah. Okay. So if you have a research ops team, a dedicated research ops team, you should know if they're like, what's the perception of your work among the UX researchers? Are they finding like useful having a research ops dedicated team or not in the end? So we have this question. We send this question in a survey. We do it per semester for everyone. And yeah, that's it. Because we need to think about that a research ops team is like a company inside another company. Like our customers, our clients are the UX researchers and the people who do research. So if we think like that, we are a company, and a company needs to know if its product is like people are satisfied or not. So that's a key one. Another key one, I would say, that is this research effort score, that it's a metric that can break down in some points. For example, asking people after a research recruitment process, was it easy or difficult to do that? And then you can know how is this specific step of the research process, such as was it easy or difficult to find the report in the repository? Was it easy or difficult to find the guidelines about the GDPR? So these are very key points that I don't see many teams doing, and it's quite easy to do that. You can embed the form or the survey inside the Notion or inside a product like Raleigh, for example. So here's an idea for Raleigh to help the teams to track that. And also you can send surveys. Like we started to do that, sending surveys for people like per quarter. It's manual, it's not scalable, but it was our pilot. Like we needed to start doing that. And now, for example, our objectives for this year in this next semester is to start embedding these questions inside the journey, the way it was supposed to be. For example, if someone is more than, I don't know, 15 seconds in the repository page trying to look for something, let's put a question so this person can share with us if it's difficult, it's not like easy at all to find what's this person needs to find. And yeah, that's it. But it's quite challenging because our reality here in the bank is that we have a lot of internal products. For example, we don't have Notion, but we have our Notion that was created by our devs. So it's not like, let me ask Notion to do that. We need to implement that. I need a dev to do that. So it's it's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure that because it's like internal products, you then have to get internal buy-in to put resources toward a research feature, which is just, again, more work on your plate to get that buy-in. I'm curious, like, can you talk through a little more that idea of like embedding into the journey? Like you were mentioning, like if they're on that, like in the repository for 15 seconds, like how would that actually work? Would there be like tracking? Like, is that something you'd have to build in? Like, I'm curious how you would do that and how that could maybe be done by other folks.
Yeah. Like the main benchmark here is the customer effort score. The way it's supposed to be and happen inside the product. It's right after a specific action. For example, if you transfer money from your cousin in your bank application, right after that can pop in a question: how easy or difficult was to transfer this amount of money for your cousin? I don't know, like it can happen. And that's more reliable in my point of view. And it can brings us more, like the level of confidence of this experience is bigger than us sending a survey in the end of the quarter, in the end of the semester, because people will forget about the experience. So what I think it's key is for us to understand and be smart to know what are the, 3-4 main journeys that the UX researchers and the UX designers, like people who do research, they have contact with research in the end, and start by doing like in this 2-3 main journeys. Like don't try to do everything all at once. That's another tip. I discovered that like making a lot of mistakes, of course, but yeah, you can start doing that. Maybe trying to know if people are finding easy or difficult to recruit participants. I know that this is like a common and the bigger challenge of every research team everywhere in the world. So
yeah, no, I love that idea of mapping out those journeys that different people engaging with research are going through. And I also love that idea too. And I feel this way even in marketing, like we're all building a product at our companies, but the work we're doing is also a product itself. And like the research team has a
Yes.
product. A marketing team has like in content marketing, like the content is also a product. So I love taking that lens of like, we need to care about that customer, like that user experience for our own research projects, which I think is super key. I'm curious. So of like, obviously there's two different like types of things you're kind of tracking, which is like activity metrics. So number of studies, number of participants, like that sort of thing. And then those bigger impact metrics you were talking about, like changes in product direction. So how do you kind of differentiate those, and what are some examples of like, especially the activity metrics you're tracking in your work?
Okay, that's a good one. So the boxes I told you before, just first to summarize everything, they are like research ops metrics in a box, research project metrics in another box, and maybe we can talk about a research system or the research discipline metrics and impact tracking process. Oh, Pedro, they're the same here in my company. Totally fine. So we just need to know that they might be different in the end. And we also need to think about that metrics, like we can talk about OKRs, like ROI, as we spoke in like in the beginning, but we have different levels of these results, these metrics. They can be operational, they can be tactical, they can be strategic. The strategic ones I would leave in this research system box. The operational ones I would leave it like in these two other boxes. They can be they can stay in research ops or in the research projects box, but that's different. And when I realized we had this different boxes, in my head everything made a lot of sense, and I could understand what was the most important box for me to open first. So in my perspective, I think if we have a commitment of the researchers to track their research project's impact, is a very good way to start doing it. If you, as a research ops person, professional, have the same answer for the questions I told you before, like what is a good research ops work in this company? What is not a good research ops work in this company? These are also two other questions that we might think we have an alignment, but when we go to a fig jam, we'll discover that we don't. More if like, even more if we bring like the directors and the managers to the same table. Yeah, that's it. So I would stick with this research project metrics. And if you are part of a dedicated research ops team, you can also adapt from the metrics we are looking for here in the bank. Someone sent the link of the LinkedIn post shared about that. And also you have this book, that you know that. Research That Scales from Kate Dawsey. And there is an entire chapter here talking about metrics. And yeah, it's all, and I'm very happy that I'm all aligned with everything that's here, like different types of seeing it, like costs, time saving, and yeah, that's it. There's
sorry, keep going.
No, that's it.
Yeah, no, we're big fans of Kate Dawsey here at Rally, and we love her book. We actually did a team book club for that book. But no, I think she has some really excellent points there about metrics for sure. We have another question that I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on. What is the major, not necessarily metrics focused, but what's the major challenge that you are currently facing regarding ReOps?
Oh, a lot of them. Let me choose one. The major challenge. Okay, we have a good one, which is to imagine we have these hundreds of people doing research in the bank. We have different levels of maturity in the teams. We have different levels of seniority of these professionals in the bank. And we don't know if all of them are doing the best, they're like making the best options to do research in the bank today. We don't have that. Like, it's crazy because it's a trade-off. What we do is like, we do trainings, we create guidelines, we are with them. Like this morning, we had this initiative called the Researchers Forum, which are researchers that we invite for a specific meeting every month for us to discuss high-level questions, such as this one: how to make my research count in the strategy. And then we are close to them, but we can't know, and that's like, that's crazy. We can't know if all of them are doing research right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy. Like in the end, we start to see that we can't like reinvent the wheel. We can't do everything we were supposed to do, and every team is going to be like that. That's something. With that in mind, we don't know, for example, if all of them are recruiting participants following our guidelines or not, because in some teams, the responsibility for recruiting participants are from the product owners and not the researchers. In other teams, it's from the researchers, this responsibility. And that's crazy. That's yeah, it might be a mess, but that's it. That's our game. We need to know how can we, with our time, with the effort we can put in, how can we make their research process be a little bit more easier and fluid. That's something, that's our purpose in the end. But we have a lot of things that we can't do right now. Even with a bigger team, we are 4 now. It's not dependable from the team size, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, I love the point you made of like being aware of the amount of effort and time you have. Like I think with ReOps and research, like there's so many challenges and so many things to be doing that. And this is, I mean, the same across all organizations, like prioritization, figuring out what do we tackle first. And I think a lot of these metrics and like the tracker that you have probably, I would assume, help you kind of decide where to focus some of those efforts, right? Because then you have that clear information of, oh, like people aren't adopting this, or like, oh, participant recruitment is really hard. We should, put some resources toward that or spend time there. So I love that you called that out. Like there's only so much we can all do, especially on small teams, especially with, varying context.
And there's also this maturity asset, because maturity and cultural aspects. We have teams that are more closed. They don't want to share their insights because they have their own cultural rituals and all those things. We have teams that have like junior researchers and a middle researcher. We have teams that have only senior researchers. It's different. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we're down to just 6 minutes, so I have a couple more final questions.
Oh
yeah,
God.
I know it's gone by so fast. Feel free to drop other questions in the chat, everyone. But I'm curious. You've led research teams, led ReOps. How would you what would you say has been your biggest learning you've had for advocating for the value of research at an organization level?
A simple answer: to not do presentations about the importance of research. Only that. It's not good.
So what would you say?
It's not going to bring us anywhere. Like people will say, okay, we already know that, but we need numbers. We need to know the impact your 3 people in your team are bringing to the company. Because in the end, and it's horrible to say it like that, in the end, we are money in the
Yes.
companies. And as a leader, as a manager, you need to show the company that the money you spend with someone, especially with senior people and specialists, we have return. Okay, we have the return over investment around about this person. That's something leaders should be focusing, because I'm not going to say it prevents layoffs, but it makes us aware of possibilities and what we could do to continue the research work we're doing right now. So this is something I really like to highlight, and also to share cases. Like I see many teams doing a lot of good work, good research projects, really good, like impactful ones, and just the main stakeholder knows the impact, like a director or I don't know, principal designer, and you need to share that with the company. Something we're doing in the bank right now is what we call a research expo. So it's this event. It happens per semester, and we choose after a very structured evaluation. So we choose 3, maybe 4 research projects that are in the research repository, to show to the entire company, and I'm saying like hundreds of people. So to put the researcher in this pedestal, to show this story and the learnings, the impact, everything connected to that. So maybe to try to find ways of doing that is a good starting point. Also, you can create like research pills on Slack channels and Teams channels, newsletters, all those things connected to that. But don't think like that the presentation about the importance of research will change everything, because it won't.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's such a cool idea. I don't know if you know of James Valachi from HelloFresh, but he's talked a lot about productizing research and kind of showcasing it and doing that sort of expo. So that's awesome to hear. Last question, and then we'll kind of wrap up, but just curious if you have one piece of advice or any last tips for folks that are either starting to measure and track impact or are currently in it and facing challenges. Like, what would you tell them as like a takeaway from this session?
There were a lot of takeaways, like those questions to make. I think they're all like useful, but I can say that a very useful tip for me was to maybe sometimes to close research books and start learning about negotiation, how to do those things that a leader and a research ops professional should do, more than research techniques and these other things. So negotiation, I think it's a very key skill that we need to have. And also to study about strategy. Like I don't see us talking about strategy like enough, like the product managers do. We need to know, we need to feel that we can talk about that if we are in the moment to talk about that. And the third one is to study and to be more exposed to leadership. This is also something we don't talk enough about that. I don't see like leadership talks in research conferences as I see in product management conferences. And that's crazy, because we need research leaders as well. And how are we generating research leaders? That's another question as well. That's it.
Wow. I feel like mic drop at the end. That was perfect. Thank you, Pedro. This was amazing. We could have gone for so much longer. Really appreciate the time, the insights, and thank you to the audience for sharing so many great questions. We will be putting together a recap. The recording will be shared out, and definitely keep the conversation going. You can find Pedro on LinkedIn. We'll share out his information, but definitely reach out and keep the conversations going. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Pedro, thank you again. This was wonderful. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day and starts thinking about metrics and impact tracking.
Thank you so much, Lauren. See you.
Awesome. Thank you.